All right, Lisa. So thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I know you and I met through the chamber. It was so nice for Gene to, I don't know, somehow connect with you and get you on our little Zoom meeting, which was I don't know if people really appreciated the, your level of knowledge and wisdom and mastery. And I mean, all that kind of stuff, because the people in the chamber are just like local, business. I love them all, but, I don't know, a lot of them do like masterminds and, they're into motivational stuff. And I don't know, but, I got a lot out of it. I loved it. And then we connected. So I appreciate coming on. So maybe we can go back though, because I know you have a lot of businesses. You've had a lot of success. You have a good story to tell, but can we tell your story? Can we go back to not when you're born in a log cabin, but like, earlier in your life and then how you kind of led up to what you're doing now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that's been great for me is growing up in a family of entrepreneurs. Although my dad wasn't one of them, my mom was.
Okay.
And my mom owned a barber shop at a men's clothing store. My grandfather owned a hardware store. My other grandfather owned a shoe store in a parking lot in Manhattan. Another great grandfather had a bar and grill. Great uncle had apartment buildings, laundromats, car dealerships, and everything else. So the cool thing for me is there's been tons of entrepreneurs around me, but yet I didn't even know about them until I was an adult,
Okay. They didn't tell you.
other than my mom.
Okay. So you didn't know what all these people did in your life.
No, I didn't, but I did know how they lived. And
Okay.
knowing how they lived gave me clues of, I want to know what they're doing. How did they get that? That's all
Right.
I know. I want to know how to get that. And then
Right.
what are they doing and tell me how? And I'm going to figure that out. So that was kind of where it opened up the opportunities for me to look for different things that I can be doing. And I actually started my first business at 23 years old.
Okay.
Yes.
So
So I,
so was the entrepreneurship though on your mom's side? Is that why your dad wasn't? It was all your mom's relatives.
Well, actually, no, both sides.
Oh, that's
Dad
funny.
was an engineer. He was a vice president of engineering. He's unbelievably brilliant, very technical, worked for the government, did all kinds of patents for different things. But mom was just really looking to do something and not be home, ended up partnering with somebody in the mall, ended up buying into this barbershop and got into the next. And it was her dad who was in business. It was my father's dad who
Uh,
was in business.
oh,
It was
okay.
my great grandpas who were in business. So
Okay, good. So it's on both sides.
on both sides. So I think I was born for it, not knowing it. And my brother also an entrepreneur as well. So I think it just comes with the territory now. Nothing that anybody ever said we were going to do. Actually, I wanted to go to school to be an attorney.
Okay.
And my nickname in high school was F. Lee Bailey.
Okay.
And I used to defend everybody. And then my dad told me I was going for my MRS degree, and I got that twice. So I
Okay.
don't need that anymore.
Well, you got 2 degrees though.
I
So
got
that's
I
good.
got 2 degrees.
Well,
Yes, I
did you
got.
go to law school then?
I didn't, but all my electives were in law because that and
Okay.
psychology because I really wanted to understand why I was the way I was and why my family was the way they were. And then I also wanted to really be a lawyer, but I didn't even think to pay for it myself.
Okay.
So
Because
I
23 is like, I mean, this is 30 years ago, but what did we graduate? We were like 21, 22. So that's just
yeah,
out of college.
just out of college, right? So 23, what happened is I went to Adelphi University. I graduated with a business degree in marketing,
Okay.
and I decided that I was interning with IBM through that.
Sure. Right.
And that was a great experience. And then I wanted to move out of my parents' home. And what I learned is that entry level jobs don't make you enough money to move out of parents' homes at the
Especially
time.
nowadays.
Right. Well, even
Mhm.
going back 30
Even
plus
then,
years
yeah,
ago.
we're about the same age. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to do more. I ended up deciding that I was offered a job by somebody else while I was in the IBM Product Center
Okay.
to sell software for them. And I was making a lot more money, moved out of my parents' home, but I realized what they were doing. I said, I can make more money on my own. So I decided 23 years old, I called the person who was in charge of the computer section in the Adelphi University at the college. And
Okay.
I invited him to lunch. I said, hi, Gary. I said, you held my hand for the last several years. I'd love to take you to lunch. I want to talk to you, tell you what I'm doing. We ended up meeting for lunch. I'm looking for the man, looking everywhere. He was nowhere to be found. He comes up to me and he says, hi, I'm Gary Toby. I'm like, hi. I go, you're not who I thought you were. I'm sorry, but my name is Lisa Lieberman-Wang. Nice to
You mean
meet
it was
you.
a different person that you had called thinking that that's very funny.
It was different. It was the wrong person, but it was the right person. And it turned out it built a great relationship. I was managing all their sales, doing 6 figures in sales out of a basement apartment in Babylon.
Okay.
And started my own company then, ended up building it up to 7 employees, was doing point of sale systems and selling computers and LANs and local area networks and technology and stuff. So
Yeah.
I ended up servicing them when we were selling a CPU, which is a central processing thing. It's what your computer is today. You might not know to call it a CPU.
Right.
And
Well, in those days,
desktops.
IBM was it. And you had those big boxes and the floppy drop disks, and there's no internet or things like that. So
Absolutely. Well, the LANs, the local area networks, made it so we can connect to each other's computers, but it wasn't
right.
the internet. But we were selling LANs and everything else back then too. So I've been in the industry of technology for honestly decades, and I stayed there because it's where I made money.
Right.
So literally 23 years old, 7 employees, making multiple 6 figures in business. And honestly, not knowing much about what I was doing, I realized I had signed up for adult daycare. And what that is having children working for you. And I was a child. I didn't think so at the time. But, literally when somebody wouldn't show up for something, I'm crawling underneath desks and wiring things and doing stuff I should never have been doing.
Right.
And I ended up leaving there. I took a job at MCI, figured I wanted to be on vacation and just work for somebody else. So I went to the 2nd largest carrier in the world at the time and became the top salesperson, 1%, the top 1% in the world for them.
Okay.
I was always 400% a goal. And
selling what? Selling their services?
I was an executive account manager for telecom.
Got
So I
it.
was selling Switch 56 T1s,
Oh,
phone
yeah, sure.
services for
Those
big
days, you don't
companies.
even need those anymore. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you would do a wide area network, connect your offices. That was like your little mini internet, right? And then you need
Yes.
a T1 to do it.
Yes. So I outgrew them and ended up back working for myself again.
So what happened with the business? I got to say though, when I was always a little entrepreneur and I always had business going. I don't think at 23 I could have done what you did, but I guess, you just had it in you. You were aware that you could do it. I don't know. It's mindset. That's what it is.
well, a lot of it's mindset. The other thing I think was ignorance because I didn't
It's
know what I
bliss, right?
didn't
That's
know.
why they say that.
Yeah, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I also believed I can do anything, which is mindset. And if I don't know, I'll figure it out, and I do. And since all these years and stuff, right now we own 4 businesses, and one is 26 years old, one's 18, one's 10, and one's 6.
4
And
kids.
what? 4
4
kids.
kids.
Yeah. Good. I have 4 kids. Yes.
Right.
And I don't manage them all myself. I've learned that that's not my job. I've learned that you hire people who are smarter than you and let them take care of it.
Right.
And each one was built based on a need in the market. And one of the things that I found I was masterful at is finding out what was missing and finding a way to deliver it. There's a lot of people out there trying to be a jack of all, master of none. And I'm not a jack of all. I am a master at marketing and sales. That's what I'm really masterful at.
Right.
And I'm also incredibly smart about surrounding myself with people who are even smarter than me. And that's what I've done well to be able to build each one of these.
It's what's that? The one thing, Gary Keller's the one thing. You found the one thing that you're good at. I mean, everybody's good at multiple things, but your one thing is sales and marketing. And that's really what you're good at. So I want to ask you a question. Back when you went to MCI, what happened to the company, your business at that point?
Well, I had closed it. So what happened is I burned out. I ended up in the hospital over 6 times over 13 years.
Good lesson for people.
Yes. And I burned out. What happened is I was dealing with depression, anxiety, perfectionism. I had to do everything myself, didn't know how to delegate, automate, eliminate, as you know, I teach now.
Yeah.
Because I had to be everything to everyone. And it was just too much. And I realized that I actually pulled that model unsuccessfully into MCI, where I would be 400% a goal, and I'd hit the goal the first week of the month, and then I'd take off the rest of the month. I'm just very good at doing what people take months to do. I do in weeks or minutes.
Okay. So
I'm just very good
to your advantage, right?
Yes, I know my advantage. But what I used to do is burn out all the time. And I didn't know how to set those boundaries for myself. And I just kept going till I hit walls. So MCI was great until I hit a wall. And because of some things that happened there, there's a breach in confidentiality. They had hired me to train the entire East Coast in sales to do what I did. And I handed over a deck of over 5 million in revenue that was supposed to be closed. And then they pulled my position. And I decided, you can go back. I'm like, I'm not going back. I don't go back. I go forward.
Right.
And I chose to go in another direction and go back to being an entrepreneur. And, the good news for that, it was a blessing because I did very well, but it wasn't where I was supposed to be. So,
but it was a learning. You learned things that good and bad, right? That you were
sure.
like, that's not for me. Now, were you there who bought MCI?
WorldCom.
Oh, right.
No,
Were you there?
I was out way before that.
Okay.
And actually, when the stock ended up getting 25% more, I became a millionaire at 30 years old, which was really awesome. And then when they went bankrupt, I became a pauper at 40.
Yeah, that's what happened, right? They got bought and crushed.
Well, no, they were embezzled is what happened.
Well, that's
Same time as Enron, they were one of those two stories. And all of us who had our 401k, our ESOP, employee stock options in there, we literally went from millionaires to paupers overnight.
Yeah.
And I never touched it. I thought it'd be for my kids' college funds, our retirement. We were all set. And I started working again at 40 years old, thinking I was already retired at that point.
Right. So you can start. If anybody's out there, they don't know what to do and they're 40 or whatever, it's not too late. You got time to rebuild your life.
No, we rebuilt it. Matter of fact, when all that happened, we had just put pools and waterfalls in our backyard. We ended up being $500,000 in debt. All of a sudden, the rug got pulled out from underneath us. 9/11 happened 2 years later. My husband lost his contract, and we started over. And that's now 17 years ago. Within 7 years, we were out of debt. We paid off everything. We were still paying child support. We not only built a business through that time, but today we're worth more than we ever were before, multiple times more than we ever were before. It's because of the mindset, like you said, Mitch. It was actually, I've already done all the work. I've been with Tony Robbins for 27 years. When I was burning out, a doctor friend of mine sent me to an event and said, "Oh, Tony's doing a fire walk. You have to go." I'm like, "What's a fire walk?"
Did you do that fire walk?
Well, I did it 14 times. So yes.
Wow. I don't know if I could do that.
Yes.
I have friends that said they did it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done it 14 times. I've been with Tony 27 years. I'm also a trainer for him, for Tony Robbins. And my husband and I did the platinum program with him as well. And I just knew that so much is, there's in everything we do for business, there's 3 categories. It's state, story, strategy. So everybody has a great strategy to how to build a successful business, right? Everybody has a great strategy to lose weight. Everybody has a great strategy to build anything. The thing is, it's not the strategy. That's the 20% mechanics. That's the 20% people think.
Right.
What happens is the 80% is psychology, and that's the state and the story.
Right.
But what most people do is they first start with the strategy and try to do something, but they didn't manage their state and story. Right. When you do, the reason why we were able to overcome all the challenges we had and get through everything and continue to be successful no matter what I did, is one thing I learned because of not knowing how to manage my state when I was younger, getting depressed, overwhelmed, frustrated. I used to burn out. So when I learned to manage my state and show up at the best possible way I can, and then the story is not about failing. It's about how I'm going to succeed and seeing the future in advance. When you can manage those 2 first, that's 80% of the whole thing.
Right.
Then you can implement the strategy and you'll have success. The challenge for most people today is they're working out there. They're looking just to follow a strategy, but they never mastered the state and story. Right. And because of that, there's a lot of people not succeeding today. Right now, with COVID, with other things happening, the pandemic that we've dealt with for months and months and months already, there are companies that are thriving out there as ours and many of my clients. And there are companies that are just about surviving or treading water. The difference is state and story. The ones that actually believe they can do it. So I have one client who is a transformative neuro Reiki master. We branded her.
Okay.
Most people who do Reiki don't actually make any money. And during this pandemic, just over the last 2 months, she's done over $40,000 in sales.
Wow.
Now, over the year, and it was a couple of months right after May, March, April, people didn't know what was going on. There was a little bit of a shift. Everybody's giving things away for free. We just did her numbers. Well, homeschooling 3 boys working part-time, she's already at $104,000 this year.
Wow.
And we still have 2 months left to go. She'll probably hit 150. Now, that's not big for $1 million business, but for a stay-at-home mom with 3 boys homeschooling,
Change your life.
It's humongous. It is humongous. But when everybody else was giving it away, she called me, they're giving away. I said, well, you're not everyone else. You can give this away, but here's what you're going to do. And we literally worked on state story and then implemented the strategy that was already working. And when we do that, it changes. And that's the challenge for most people, is they don't understand. They're looking to pay someone for a strategy, but they have to get the state and story down.
Now, is the state in the story really the emotional side, the things
Yep.
that drive us, right? Because we don't make decisions based on logic generally.
No, we make decisions on emotions and justify on logic. So,
okay, that's
and
great.
as I happen to be a licensed master NLP and NAP practitioner.
Oh yeah, I like
so,
NLP.
Which is all about how we program ourselves for success and failure, how we use language and emotions to actually make these decisions and put us where we want to be or don't want to be.
Well, so you're a Tony Robbins master. You're an NLP. You probably do karate or something that Mr. Miyagi used to do on the side. So you had all these things going on. Now, do you think, going back with what happened with you, losing everything, having to start over, that you would have gotten to where you are today? Like, was that the motivation for you? Think maybe you just would have been coasting along? I mean, I see the kind of person you are, but because not everybody, right? Some people just coast through life and it works out and they're okay, and they don't face any significant challenges where they're challenged to do better. And that kind of, what's the word? Kind of pushed you along, right?
Right. So if I had, well, my mother said it very, very nicely. I think at the time she said, had MCI or WorldCom not gone bankrupt, she said, you wouldn't be helping as many people as you are today.
Right. That's what I mean. That's what I'm asking. So you would have just been like, oh, well, we got our stock. Everything's good. Kids will go to college.
Well, pretty much. I was retired at 30. I was pretty happy. I was putting in waterfalls and pools and gazebos and cabanas. And everything seemed great. And then it wasn't. And the path I chose to do was entrepreneurship, was building businesses. And one thing I've always been great at is building businesses. I think adversity is one of the great motivator, the difference between good, they say the enemy of excellence is greatness. It's like when we're already great, you don't go for the next level. Right. In my world, I live with a CANI principle. CANI stands for CANI, constant never ending improvement.
I like so that. You're into acronyms.
Yes, I am. So I worked for acronym companies, IBM, MCI.
Right, that's true. That's true.
It was a joke almost when somebody wanted to hire me. I said, "You're not an acronym. I can't."
Right, you can't. Sorry. That's pretty funny. No, but I think all that stuff is, to a certain extent, I think that it comes with the kind of person that you are, but I guess you really developed into that person, right? I mean, you were just as shy as I was back when we were 20s and didn't know what to do and were too stupid to do otherwise. And you just happened to be like, I'm going to do this. Why can't I do this? I don't know if I had that in me then.
Yeah. Well, no one ever told me I couldn't do it. I think it was a blessing. I decided to have a carnival at 13 years old. My mother was working. She wasn't home. I invited the whole neighborhood into her backyard. I mean, literally had all the stands, did everything else. I was never told that I couldn't do those kinds of things. So I think that was the first part. And I think the other part was my family, when I grew up, was motivated by money. So they told us when we were younger that we needed to make 6 figures. So I was making 6 figures by the time I was 23. And I said to my mom, I wish you would have said 7. I would have done it
You were
sooner.
like, oh, I made it. Well, that's always the watermark, right? I mean,
they gave me a number. I said, I wish it was a higher number. I would have done it so much sooner. But but the point is that, we were given, that was our measurement in our family. Honestly, if you made that, you were successful. And I think people have their own glass ceilings where somebody will turn around and be making 6 figures and never think that they could make 7 or make 100 or 150. And I remember, having people where, just like me, when I was in my 20s, I had a manager who said to me, I said, do you think I'll make 80? She goes, Lisa, you're on track for 150. And I'm like, I'm on track for 150. I'm like so excited about 80,
Right.
never. And this is when I was 22 or something. I mean, I was actually, maybe it was after that. No, I was 23 with the Dawn Microtechnologies. So this was probably 26 or 27. And when she said that, I was thinking, wow, I never even thought I'd get there. And then the next threshold, the next, but I remember putting a ceiling, like I got to this number, I hit my quota, I can stop, like,
Right. Oh boy, I did
now.
it. Right.
And then realizing, wait a second, who put that number there? I did.
Right.
They
Put in
gave
your
it to
head.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. And people don't realize that. Just like, who I just described, Brenda. Brenda was happy with 30,000 at one point. I wasn't. I told her she had to make more. and then now her numbers keep escalating. It's like she never thought she could make that. And it's like, well, yes, you can. There's no reason you can't. You don't need to put a ceiling on it. I have people right now. I have one woman that within, a couple of weeks, I shared it with you at the chamber, she was making pretty much what Brenda's going to make this year. She was making the same thing a year. And after 5 weeks working with her, she made 72,000 in 5 weeks, what used to take her 6 months. And it goes back to state and story.
Right. And believing that you can do it, right?
Believing it,
Or
seeing the
wanting to do
future
it.
in advance. You don't need to know how. You don't need to, you just have to have a big enough why. The bigger the why, the harder you try. Have a big enough why and have the determination that it will happen. And then all the stuff will come into place when you're ready.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Oh, I mean, everything I do is about, every person I talk to is about mindset, about being aware of what, why you're doing things, that you can do more. Isn't it Tony Robbins that says, if you want to be great, you got to shoot for excellent. If you only shoot for great, you'll probably be good. It's just the way life works. You don't.
I think there's 100 people who might have said that. Zig Ziglar said it. Tom
Maybe, right.
Hopkins said it.
It's true. It's just
John
truisms,
Maxwell has said it. Jack
Yeah,
Canfield said
because they're
it.
just truisms in life. There's just
Yeah.
something like that. So let's talk about the businesses you're in and how you got into them and why, and what you're doing, and all that type of stuff.
Well, the business I'm in now is helping entrepreneurs create 6 and 7 figure businesses, multiple 7-figure businesses. I'm also working with 8-figure businesses too. But really what I do more than anything else is help them take the trajectory of their business and compound it, understanding where they are, how to scale it, how to market it, how to create sales processes that work. Most people are spending too much time on a one hit type of solution. They're going out, they're looking to get a client, but they don't create the funnels and the repetitive type of work that will be filling it. So they're constantly reacting to a market versus servicing it. And what we do masterfully is really helping entrepreneurs, coaches, and business owners be able to build their business with everything from giving them the education through online programs of what they need to do, but giving them a complete team. And that's what we bring to the table, a full team of not just me saying, Mitch, okay, we need to implement this, this, and this. I say, okay, we're going to implement this. And okay, this department's, we have the departments to do it too. So it's more of a handheld experience, and we actually treat all of our clients as if they're our business. So when we go into a company, we're taking over the company in the mindset that this is our business and we need to help make it succeed. And what do we need in place? So in different scenarios, when I'm dealing with coaches, I'm helping them actually become the experts in their field and to be seen that way, so they stop charging by hour, but charge by outcome and value. I help them position themselves and also create those funnels. When I'm dealing with brick and mortar or to go to click and order, it's really about for them scaling and changing the way their systems and funnels are working, but it's now on a bigger scale and there's more people involved in having to get the whole company to sing the same song. And most times they're not. There's divisions that know something, but they're not all working together and they're doing the work twice as hard.
So do you deal with larger corporations or generally small business owners? Like, what's the largest company you've ever worked for? Do you remember?
About 50 million. But actually that's not true, because I do work for Konica Minolta, for
Working
Fortune
with their
500.
executives and stuff?
I go in for that. I've worked with Athens Blue Cross Blue Shield and other big companies. So they'll bring me in for consulting and to do stuff for them. So yes, but the businesses I work with are normally small business under 20 million.
Right. I mean, I knew one that was 80 million, but it was a family-owned business and they sold sandwiches to every university in the East Coast. So just
Yeah.
because the revenue doesn't mean anything. But okay, so you do work with corporate executives at companies
Yes.
as well as individuals. I
Yes.
guess the individuals you can make more of an impact or change, right?
Well, you know what?
They can listen to you. They don't have to,
Well, it depends on the level of what's implemented, right? Fortunately, I deal with the CEOs all the time, so it's top down, which is really beautiful because then you'll see it will happen within the company. It's not like we're trying to push something up the ladder.
Right.
So.
Oh, that makes sense. Sure. Yeah, because if you're dealing with their sales team and then they're like, well, yeah, we want to do it, but they won't let us do it.
Yeah.
That's problematic. And you do, and you said you have other businesses because I think you do web design. You do.
Yeah,
right?
we have a web development company for 18 years where we do all the stuff for web, for SEO, search engine optimization, search engine marketing, social media marketing. We do all that through the web development company. Yes.
So somebody can literally hire you to run that all for their company?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Which is why I said we hold their hands. So as working with when you're working with us, all my companies actually feed each other because they all were developed based on a need of what our clients wanted. So we ended up creating another company just to be the service. In other words, I tell you what to do, Mitch, and you're like, well, I want to do it, Lisa, but I don't have the manpower. I'm like, well, we have that too. So we could provide that through one of our other companies.
So is that what the four businesses are kind of interrelated in that regard?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it makes sense. Why should you do totally unrelated businesses? Right? Well, people do it, but that's crazy. So, because I think one of the things that attracted me to what you were saying and that resonated with me was all of the kind of like the way you help people to stand out, because I think that I obviously you're busier than me, but I go to a lot of Zoom meetings, and especially like during the height of coronavirus last spring, I had no business. I mean, my clients were closed. I deal with small business owners. They're either closed or afraid they're going to close. They weren't calling their lawyer to say, hey, can we redo our operating agreement? They're like, well, we might be out of business. So how is it that people should be thinking about themselves to make themselves stand out? Because I find that a lot of people, they're mortgage people, they're financial people, they don't stand out, like in my mind, at all. Maybe I don't know. There's a lot of lawyers out there.
Well, I think one of the things I talk about in the book, Brand You, Become the Expert, and this is something I'll offer to everybody listening, Brand You got it. Yay.
Got it.
It's a quick and easy read. And one thing in here, just go to brandyoubecometheexpert.com, pay the shipping. I pay the book. For more sales, more
For
clients.
those of people who are listening, that's free. That's a free book. You just pay the shipping.
Yes. Yes.
I don't want to be anybody slow on the uptake. So you can get Lisa's book for free.
Yes, get the book for free. And in here, I think the biggest differentiator and what makes this worth even more than people understand is the sensational soundbite. And the sensational soundbite people know as over the years as an elevator pitch or a 2-minute commercial or whatever you want to call it. But when I had changed it to a sensational soundbite, it actually did something people wouldn't really understand. I'm actually looking for the page in the book so I can pull it up. And one of the things that makes it unique is that it overcomes people's objections. It identifies who it's for immediately. It identifies what the problem is we're dealing with. It also identifies the benefit for working with you and the advantages for working with you. And then it has a call to action. There's 5 points to say, who do you know who if it's not them? So what happens is when everybody's in the same room, like you said, I'm an attorney, I'm a mortgage person, I do real estate, and that's all great. So I don't care, right? So
I know 1,400 real estate people and 2,700 people in the mortgage business. And yeah.
Right. So what makes it different? Well, the difference is sensational soundbite, where instead of doing that, I have, like for the book Find to Fab, this is when I'm helping people personally and more of a personal than not coming to me for business. My sensational soundbite will be typically I work with successful women who are successful in some areas, but not with themselves. I help them go from feeling fine, which is how I used to feel, which is effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. To
another acronym.
Yep. Fabulous, awesome, beautiful. I help them do that without years of shame, blame, and therapy so they can live an authentic life, happy, healthy, and free. Who do you know who'd be interested in that? Now, that is better than saying, hi, my name is Lisa Lieberman-Wang. I'm a business and life strategist, right? If I want to talk to somebody about helping them personally, I'm going to use that sensational soundbite versus if I'm talking to them about business, I may say, typically I work with entrepreneurs who are looking to make multiple 6 and 7 figure incomes, who are frustrated and overwhelmed with their business as it's working. And they want to be able to cut through the garbage and follow a proven business plan to be able to make that kind of money. If you know anybody who'd like to do that, then have them refer them to me. Something to that point. The point is that I'm not coming out there and saying, hi, I'm a business and life strategist. And you go, well,
okay,
what's in it for me?
right.
What's in it for me? But if you're identifying their problem, you're telling them the solution right away, then you're saying, okay, oh, she can help me, he can help me. And people don't quite understand that, as well as the fact that there's a lot of people out there that are in real estate, that are mortgage brokers, that are life coaches and everything else. And if you do not have a niche in the sense of having real specific identity of who your ideal client is, you're selling to everyone and no one hears you. And the way we've done it, each one of my businesses are multiple 6 and 2 or 7 figure businesses. We built it because we know who our niche is. Although you said, who do I work with? The truth of the matter is I have 2 avatars. My Samantha is the person who's a business coach or a life coach or something, where she's out there looking to change the world. It could be a he. That's my Samantha. And then my Rebecca Rebecca is really, and again, could be a he. My Rebecca, though, is 90% of my clients are female. Rebecca is more of the brick and mortar, wanting to go click an order. So I have 2 specific avatars I'm working with. I know exactly when I'm going to speak at a certain event or going somewhere, who I'm speaking to. And I have a sensational soundbite for each one so that they can hear me and identify she can help me. When you're out there trying to please everyone, no one hears you.
Right.
You're too general.
Yeah. I think if you don't know whether you call it your avatar, ideal client profile, whatever it is, and a lot of people don't, right? If you don't know, you can work with everybody. That's fine. You don't have to turn business away, but in terms of marketing and branding yourself, you have to really be focused. And I think a lot of people fall short on that. It's hard. First of all, it's obviously hard to make your soundbite accurate if you don't know who your audience is that you're focusing on, right?
Right.
Can't be motivated by it. So,
but absolutely, you can't get it correct. And then when you even do the avatar, you even go into it in the book talking about your ideal client, people are usually too vague. They'll go in there and say, my ideal client is 40 to 65. That's not your ideal client. A 40-year-old has very different needs than a 65-year-old has.
right.
65's thinking retirement, 40's thinking kids, college, other things there. So really understanding who you're marketing to have that specific conversation as well, not to throw money away. When you're trying to sell to everyone and you think everyone's your customer, you think you need to go everywhere. The reason we've been able to scale businesses so quickly for our customers is we literally look at who's their ideal client. That's someone who can afford them and gets it. When you know who can afford you and gets it, now knowing everything about them, to what they do, where they do it, what keeps them up at night, what the pillow talk is, all the other things, when you know all those things about them, and you also know where they spend their time, where they spend their money, now when you're looking to go do something, you'll say, is Rebecca going to be there? Is Samantha going to be there? If they're not going to be there, nor are you. You see the difference? Where otherwise you're going, well, I need to go to this one, this one, this one. Well, is that really where you need to be? Is that the best place for you to be? And, I had an opportunity years ago, probably a decade ago. I was given tickets I just came off the plane, just got back from Boston, had spoke for about 500 people, entrepreneurs looking to build their business. And I've been speaking all over the world. I've been on ABC, NBC, CBS, been on stages of 25,000 people in the arenas that I've been speaking for decades. And my husband and I we're one of the top 1% in the world in a direct sales company as well. So that's the other company I don't usually talk about. Okay. So we have a residual income whether we work or not, which we're very blessed to have earned. And the irony was I'm in the airport and I had made this decision. I wanted to consult and help entrepreneurs in a bigger way. And I get a call from somebody. I just came into the airport. And when I went and spoke at that event, they loved us. And they actually gave me a gift, a $2,000 ticket to go see Bo Eason. And Bo is all about acting and more about getting your story, your pitch out as a story and how to deliver and more of that. So I'm like, great, I'm going to go to California. My husband books my flight to California. I'm ready to go. And then I get a phone call from a women's organization that their keynote speaker is going for surgery. And would you replace her? And I was like, well, who's going to be there? She says, well, we have 100 entrepreneurs. They're my Samanthas. So I turn around, we're at the baggage claim in Newark. I remember it was like it was yesterday. And I turned around to my husband and I said, handsome, can you cancel my airfare? Is it, can we get the money back?
You were going to leave. You were getting on your plane there?
No, we had just gotten into Jersey, but okay. He had just booked the ticket for California
for the next trip.
One.
Got it.
So that day, and I said, can we get out of it? And he said, yeah. I said, okay, I'm going to give the ticket back. I said, because 100 Samanthas are going to be here in Jersey, in South Jersey, or I go to Boeaston where I'll be lucky if I find 5, right. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to this event. So I ended up giving the gift back, the $2,000 gift back. And I went to the other event. That other event made me over $60,000.
Right,
so
because you chose the right audience. Well, it's not worth it, 2,000. So
I knew
it was
the
at the
audience.
same time, basically.
It was the same weekend. Because I knew the audience, and the truth is that there weren't 100 people. There was less than 40, and I still did over 60,000 in sales.
Yeah, because they were your target
yeah.
market. They were your people.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest problem is not like people don't want to reach their target. They don't even know what their target is. They don't take the time to learn about what it is they're good at and who they want to work with, right? Part of it's a choice, isn't it? I mean, isn't the kind of people you want to work with most of the time by choice? Like they're the people you service the most and probably like working with the most, right?
Well, absolutely. That's my third rule. Besides, do they get it? Can they afford me? It's are they fun to work with? Because if they don't fit that criteria, I've only fired like 2 or 3 people in my lifetime, but my clients, meaning I fired clients I didn't want anymore.
Right. No, I sometimes you feel like you got to take on everybody, and then I don't know who it ends up being more miserable for, you or them,
Yeah.
and it's not a good way to build your business. Then you're not happy doing what you're doing. I think that's one of the biggest problems with entrepreneurship is that people don't realize that it's a choice and that you can drive the car more than you think you do. And they just kind of feel like they got to do everything and they're kind of lost. And look, hopefully along the way they meet you. I don't know if they all do. Well, they don't all do that because you can only meet so many people. So it's just, it's difficult. And that's why I started the podcast. That's why I do what I do as a lawyer, is because it's frustrating meeting people. And I don't do what you do. I can now send them to you, right? So I meet them when I'm kind of picking up the mess. Their business is failing. They got to get out of their lease. They got equipment leases that they're paying for, employee issues, debt, maybe on their house if they took a loan out and they have no business plan. They didn't do any kind of planning. They were really accidentally kind of went into business and they don't take the time to learn. If they meet somebody like you, maybe they can turn it around, or at least turn around for the next business. Maybe if there's too much damage already.
Well, I think that in any business, you need to have systems in place, and then that way it's sustainable. And most entrepreneurs, including myself decades ago, didn't know that. That's why I said I didn't know what I didn't know. And at the time I thought I was so smart, and I did really well for myself. In the same token, today I do even better because of the knowledge I have, right? So.
Well, isn't that the irony of life? Like they don't oh, you're out of college. Here's the book of life and you can follow page 12 and you'll know what to do. It's like at the end, you know everything. And you're like, boy, I wish 40 years ago I knew what I knew now. It's kind of like, that's the way it goes, But I think you've learned more and experienced more and grown more than most people that I've met. I mean, they're just not, either they don't take it in or they just don't get it. I don't know.
Well, I happen to be obsessed with personal growth and growing and learning. And I have been really fortunate that, 1, being very successful, 2, being willing to invest in myself, that I've been trained by some of the best people in the world you could ever ask for, especially business, from the Keith Cunninghams, the Jay Abraham, the Zig Ziglars, the Tom Hopkins, the, Brian Tracy. I mean, you just name them. If they were alive, I went to learn from them personally. I've taken their programs. I've continued to be learning from them. And, it just never stops for me. So I'm in 3 programs right now online.
Are you?
Yes, well, while I'm doing everything else, because there's just so much going on. There's so many ways to do things today. And what used to take us so long can be done so quickly. And what, people don't realize when I say scaling, I'll have somebody turn around and say, it's going to take me 6 months. I go, what about 6 weeks?
Right. Why does it have to be 6 months?
Yeah, and they just don't know how to forecast it because somebody once said to them it was hard or they couldn't do it. And I don't live in that world. I think I like to do the opposite of what everybody tells me. There's an expression is, go against the stream, and swim like salmon. So if everybody's going to the right
Do
and
it the other way.
you
Right.
go the other way.
Yeah.
Disney World, I once bought a book on how to see Disney. And the first thing it says is everybody walks into the amusement park and goes to the right. What you need to do to avoid the lines is go to the left.
Simple as that.
It's go to the left. And isn't that like life in all these areas? You don't want to,
very much so. Yeah.
if it's an 80-20 rule and only 20% succeed and 80% don't, and 80% of your income comes from 20% of your clients and all the other 80-20, it's Pareto's rule.
Right.
Yeah, it all is true. Then if that's the case, then why don't we take more time to focus on where the 20 percenters are, and how to get that more. And most people don't think like that.
No, they don't. That's why it's an 80-20. And I think if the people that I know that are real successful, they are obsessed with personal development, motivational stuff. When I was in my 20s and 30s and I discovered Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins and Brian Tracy and all the stuff was on cassettes in those days. But I used to drive around in my car and I was in sales and I have all the cassettes popping them in and out.
Me too.
It just, you just get obsessed with that. And it's energizing. I think it's, and a lot of people don't do it. That's okay. There's plenty of 20 percenters for you to work with, right? You're not going to run out of people.
No, there's no lack of people right now looking to expand and grow. And I feel really blessed that I get to meet them and they're referred to me or they find me or whatever the case is. But there's a lot of opportunity out there right now for everyone. And I think that they just need someone who can guide them if they don't know how already.
Right. So I guess what's the best way for people to interact with you?
To reach me, you mean?
Yeah, to reach you, to get on your mailing list, to read about your stuff. I don't know, read your book. Well, get your book. We know we're going to put a link in the show notes. And
I'll actually give you the links to both books because the Find to Fab for personal development should be a no-brainer for everybody. And honestly, the Find to Fab started out as Why Willpower Doesn't Work. And then but I didn't think that would go as well as Find to Fab. So I titled it Find to Fab, and that ended up putting me on the map. So it was better. But how to reach me, Lisa Lieberman-Wang, the only Jewish Chinese woman with that name, which really is. And I'll tell you why I use both names, really simple. I'm with my husband 22 years. We were dating. I went to go pick up something and it was under his name. So they go, Mrs. Wang, Mrs. Wang. And I said, yeah, I'm here. Go, Mrs. Wang. And I'm like, I'm here. And they just looked right through me. I came home. I said, I love you, but handsome.
Got to do both.
I got to keep the Lieberman.
Definitely makes you stand out.
Well, they're looking for some Asian woman here.
Right, exactly. But I know people Lee, and they're not Asian. I know Jewish people that are last name's Lee. L-E.
Yes. Yeah, I have a client, Dr. Natasha Chen, and she's African American.
There you go.
And she's a gynecologist. And she walk into the office and they're waiting for the doctor. She goes, I'm her.
Right. That's so funny.
So yes, but just find me, LisaLiebermanWang.com, and also Find to Fab. They're both, you can find me there. Social media the same way. Anywhere you can find me, no hyphens in social media. And connect. And if you're in a position where you're actually looking to grow yourself in your business and you want to have a consult, I'll offer a discovery call. My discovery calls are conditional. You'll fill out an application, and if we believe we can help you, we'll be happy to. And you can go to callwithlisa.com to do that. That's CALLWITH, Lisa.com.
And what was that book you recommended to me that I'm reading now about branding?
Donald Miller is Story Brand.
Story Brand. Right. Yeah,
yes.
Great book.
Yes.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I know you're busy and you squeeze me in and all the stuff. You got 14 things going on. So taking the time to come on the podcast, we're definitely going to stay in touch. I hope to work with you at some point in the future. And thanks. Any parting words, any last things you want to put out there that's sticking in your mind or?
Well, I think last things right now is that if you are in business and you want to stay in business, taking really directed action right now is critical. And to find yourself in a way of really pushing momentum, no matter what happens out there with the economy. If you're not putting yourself out there to be seen, you will be gone. And right now it takes 16 touch points for someone to make a decision to work with you. And it doesn't mean you have to be all 16. It can be through social media, emails, texts, phone calls, connections, referrals, videos, other things. But be sure to be putting yourself out there. There's a lot of noise out there, and you want to make sure that you're standing out from the crowd so that when they're looking for what you have, they know to call you. And I think that's the most important
Could
thing.
be a
It's not
guest on a
about getting-
podcast.
What was that?
Could be a guest on a
You
podcast.
could be a guest on a podcast. That's another way to do it too. But make
Exactly.
sure you're out there, because I think that's critically important. And most people are kind of waiting for something. You can't wait. You just got to go out and do it.
Great advice from Lisa Lieberman-Wang. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.